The holographic projection flickered to life in the center of Geneva's United Nations Assembly Hall, casting an eerie blue glow across the faces of Earth's assembled leaders. The being that materialized was tall, crystalline, and radiated an aura of absolute authority that had cowed 1,000 worlds. "Primitive humans," the Archon of the Galactic Council began, its voice resonating through universal translators. "You stand in violation of Galactic Law 447 Alpha. Your expansion into the outer arm sectors is unauthorized. You will cease all colonization efforts, dismantle your military fleet, and submit to Council governance within 30 planetary rotations. Failure to comply will result in immediate pacification." Ambassador Maya Sharma stood from her seat, her dark eyes reflecting the hologram's cold light. She was humanity's voice to the cosmos, a diplomat who had spent 5 years navigating the treacherous politics of the Galactic Council. She knew their laws, their customs, their carefully constructed hierarchy of power, and she knew, with absolute certainty, that this ultimatum was built on a foundation of cosmic arrogance. "With respect, Archon," Maya said, her voice calm and measured, "humanity declines." A murmur rippled through the Council's projection. 36 species, representing civilizations spanning millions of years, stared in collective disbelief. "You decline." The Archon's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been confusion. "Perhaps your translation matrix is malfunctioning. We are not requesting, we are ordering." Maya smiled, a subtle knowing expression that didn't reach her eyes. "Our translation is perfect, and our answer remains the same: no." On the other side of the Sol system, aboard the UNS Defiance, Captain William Cross watched the exchange on his command screen. His ship was one of 300 vessels positioned in defensive formations around Earth's outer planets, a fleet the Galactic Council had ordered dismantled. "She's really doing it," his tactical officer whispered. William allowed himself a grim smile. "Maya always had guts. Now let's make sure we back up her words." The Archon's projection swelled, its form becoming more imposing. "You do not understand the gravity of your situation. The Council commands 7,000 star systems. Our fleets number in the hundreds of thousands. Your entire species occupies one small world and a handful of colonial outposts. You are insects threatening an empire." "Insects?" Maya repeated, letting the word hang in the air. "Is that what the Vraxi Empire called us before we liberated 4 of their slave worlds? What the Corthian raiders named us before we scattered their fleets at Proxima Station? Or perhaps it's what the Zomer Collective whispered before we negotiated their surrender without firing a single shot?" She stepped closer to the hologram, her posture radiating confidence that made several Council members shift uncomfortably. "You see us as primitives because we've only been in space for 2 centuries. You measure us against your million-year civilizations and find us wanting. But you've made a critical error in your calculations, Archon." "And what error is that?" The being's voice dripped with condescension. "You've forgotten what it means to fight for survival." The holographic chamber erupted in cacophonous debate. Species that had known only Council protection for millennia couldn't fathom such defiance. But Maya wasn't finished. "Your civilizations grew comfortable under Council rule. You traded autonomy for security, ambition for stability. You haven't fought a real war in 10,000 years, only policing actions against rebellious colonies and enforcement operations against minor species. You've forgotten the desperation that drives innovation, the fear that sharpens instinct, the determination that refuses to surrender even when all logic says you should." She accessed her datapad, and images flooded the projection. Humanity's blood-stained history displayed for all to see. "We spent 10,000 years fighting ourselves. Brother against brother, nation against nation, ideology against ideology. We nearly destroyed our own world a dozen times over. We invented weapons so terrible we banned ourselves from using them. We experienced horrors that would break your advanced, civilized minds." The images shifted. Hiroshima's mushroom cloud, trenches of the Somme, the burning of Rome, the siege of Stalingrad. And then we looked up at the stars and decided we were done fighting each other. Imagine, Archon, what a species that nearly committed suicide through warfare can accomplish when we finally unite against an external threat. William watched his tactical display as Galactic Council scout ships began positioning themselves around human colonies. They were probing, testing humanity's defenses, expecting the primitive species to crumble at the first show of force. "All ships," he transmitted across encrypted channels, "weapons free on my mark. Let's show them what happens when you corner a predator." The Council scouts moved into attack formation, their weapons charging with energy signatures that should have terrified any rational species. But humans, William reflected, had never been entirely rational. "Mark!" The Defiance and her sister ships opened fire simultaneously, not with the elegant particle beams or plasma lances favored by Council vessels, but with kinetic impactors, chunks of tungsten accelerated to relativistic speeds. Crude, primitive, absolutely devastating. The Council scouts, designed for police actions and intimidation, had shields optimized against energy weapons. The solid slugs punched through them like paper, reducing half the formation to expanding clouds of debris in seconds. The surviving scouts retreated immediately, transmitting frantic reports back to the Council. In Geneva, the Archon's projection flickered with what might have been rage. "You dare attack Council vessels." Maya's expression never changed. "You demanded our surrender. You threatened pacification. Did you expect us to simply bow, to accept subjugation without resistance?" She laughed, a short, sharp sound that echoed through the chamber. "You really don't understand us at all. Your resistance is futile. We will send a fleet that will blot out your sun." "Then we'll fight in the shade," Maya replied, quoting ancient Spartans who had faced their own impossible odds. "You'll send your fleets, yes. Hundreds of ships crewed by species that have forgotten what war truly means, and we'll meet you with vessels built by engineers who design weapons in their spare time for fun, with soldiers who study ancient battles not as history but as instruction manuals, with civilians who will fight to the last because we learned millennia ago that freedom isn't free." She pulled up another image, the small blue marble of Earth floating in the void. "You see one planet. We see home. Every human alive will die before we let you take it, and we'll take as many of you with us as physics allows." The Archon was silent for a long moment. Around the projection, various Council members whispered urgently among themselves. Some, the younger civilizations, watched humanity with something approaching respect. Others, the ancient powers, radiated disbelief that any species would choose extinction over submission. "You would sacrifice your entire civilization for pride?" the Archon finally asked. "Not pride," Maya corrected. "Principle. There's a difference. Pride is thinking you're superior. Principle is knowing what you stand for and refusing to compromise it, regardless of the cost." William's tactical officer interrupted his thoughts. "Captain, we're detecting massive hyperspace signatures. Multiple Council fleets are mobilizing." "How many ships?" "Initial count, over 5,000. William felt his heart rate spike, but his voice remained steady. "Then we'd better make every shot count. Maya bought us time to prepare. Let's not waste it." Across human-controlled space, shipyards worked around the clock. Factories churned out missiles, railguns, and kinetic impactors. Scientists weaponized everything from asteroid mining lasers to terraforming equipment. Civilian volunteers trained in combat tactics not seen since World War II. Humanity, faced with extinction, did what it had always done best. It adapted, innovated, and prepared to fight like hell. Back in Geneva, Maya continued her address. "The Council has maintained peace for millennia through overwhelming force and the threat of annihilation. You've become the very thing you claim to stand against, tyrants who demand submission and call it civilization." We offer order, structure, protection. You offer servitude, Maya countered. And humanity has a long, bloody history of rejecting tyrants. We toppled kings, overthrew dictators, and dismantled empires. We fought revolutions on every continent of our world. Some failed. Many succeeded, but we never stopped trying. She stepped back, her message delivered. So here's our counteroffer, Archon. Withdraw your fleets. Recognize humanity's sovereignty. Treat us as equals rather than subjects. Do this, and we'll share our technology, our culture, our partnership. And if we refuse? Maya's smile turned cold. Then you'll learn why every human child knows the story of David and Goliath. You'll discover why we have phrases like never give up and fight to the last breath carved into our collective psyche. You'll understand why a species that nearly destroyed itself is uniquely qualified to take others down with us. This is madness. No, Maya said quietly, this is humanity. The hologram flickered and died, leaving the assembly hall in darkness. Around her, Earth's leaders rose in unanimous support, their faces reflecting the same defiant determination that had carried humanity from caves to the stars. William watched the council fleets gather at the edge of human space, a massive armada that should have spelled doom for Earth. But he thought of Maya's words, of humanity's bloody history and indomitable spirit, and he found himself smiling. All ships, he broadcast, prepare for engagement, and remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting to show the galaxy that some species refuse to kneel. The Council had demanded surrender. Humanity had laughed. And across 1,000,000 stars, ancient civilizations began to wonder if perhaps they had made a terrible, terrible mistake. Because humanity, forged in the fires of its own self-inflicted apocalypses and tempered by centuries of conflict, was about to teach the galaxy an old Earth lesson. Never corner something meaner than you are. The war for humanity's freedom was about to begin, and the universe would never be the same.